On today's show, how does someone from Edmonton cheer for the Calgary Flames? Councillor Walsh joins us to explain. Also, Town Council has big plans this year for the land south of the Multiplex. And finally, we solve party politics here in Alberta. This is Penhold Talk Radio. And welcome back to the show. Thank you for joining us again this week. I am Brian Constantine, and I am joined again by my co-host, Michael Rowland.
Hello, hello.
Good to see you're feeling better.
Oh, all better. Back to normal.
And the rest of the household.
Yes.
Apparently, you got it all out of the way and then done with now.
Burned it out in about a week, maybe a little over a week, and we're all good.
Oh, good. Excellent. All right. Right off the top, we usually try to get the local news out of the way first. And just kind of, like I said, little public service announcement. If you're listening to this on the day of release, so on Saturday, March 19th, just bring your attention that Penhold Citizens on Patrol is doing a bottle drive. You probably got one of these flyers on your door this week.
Yeah. Well, we were all sick, so we were inside. I opened the front door, and I'm pretty sure it had been there for a few days. But yeah, we had the door hanger hanging there.
Yeah, you pierced your plastic curtain on there. You got a hazmat. Exactly.
It was just a cold. We didn't have COVID. Okay. We're okay.
So March 19th, they got the bottle drive for Penhold Citizens on Patrol up at the Multiplex. You can also go on Penhold Happenings page. They got posts there where you can find the phone number if you need a pickup. But I just wanted to bring your attention to that. And also, hopefully in a couple of weeks, we'll get Councillor Cunningham on to talk more about Citizens on Patrol and their work to help make the town a little bit safer.
Yeah, it'd be good to learn a little more about that.
But this week we do have a special guest. We do have Councillor Mike Walsh with us.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming on. Let's get this out of the way. I was gonna ask Councillor Mueller this, and now that you sit here, I think I know the answer. Who's taller?
Oh, it's not even close.
Okay.
Yeah.
He is second though, isn't he?
Yeah, he
I
will
think
be.
he's second.
Yeah.
I was going to ask him that too. I forgot. But yeah, no, you're the only one I've had to kind of adjust the mic for.
Yeah. Raise it up.
So
it was always great seeing the pictures or videos of the councillors, standing there. And then when Sanchez was on council, you and Sanchez were like the two extremes of the height difference.
And I used to tease her a lot. Do you need a little booster seat? Do you need a pillow kind of thing to see over the table? But yeah.
Now you say that there's a bit of irony because for like the last 2 years at council, you and Councillor Ham have been sitting at, if you will, the children's table off to the side.
The little kids table. They kicked us out. COVID forced us to spread out, so they added two quite small little tables to the end of the council table, which is like a horseshoe if you haven't seen it before.
Yeah.
So we were, our 6 feet spread out, and for 2 years, maybe a little bit more, I've been on the end. And actually, just this past Monday, the mayor was in Edmonton at a conference, I chaired the meeting for him. So I sat at the big table in the mayor's seat, but it was nice to be back around the table, and everyone else was around the table. So we're grateful to be getting back to normal and done with these restrictions and mandates.
It feels so good to walk in. Yeah, it feels so good to walk in the IGA and not have to check the pockets for that mask.
Yeah, no signs up and the staff wherever you went, I felt bad for them. It's not a position that any one of them wanted to do, but
no.
Here we are, and knocking on wood that we're never going back. So
that is the goal.
Yeah.
All right. Yes. So back at the big table. We'll get to council. Some things that happened at council meeting in a little bit, but first let's get a little bit of background on Councillor Walsh here. So again, looking through your bio, at least what you've publicly put out there, I haven't saw any private investigators or anything like that. So nothing you haven't already released. But we'll just get a little
the typical Facebook stalking.
Yeah.
Facebook stalking. If I wasn't elected, Facebook would be gone. It's become an evil place to hang out. But anyway,
that's where the game is played, though. If you're in politics,
that's right.
So on your page, and we are Facebook friends.
Yes.
So I do have a little bit more insight on this. Your hometown is listed as Edmonton, so I'm assuming that's where you're born.
I was.
Or did you actually grow up there too a little bit?
I spent maybe not quite half my life there. I was born in Rimbey,
Oh, born and raised. Okay.
My parents lived in a small little hamlet, Tomahawk, which is where my Bubba and my Guido lived. So we were close to my mom's parents. And small hamlet, maybe population of 80, one gas station. My Guido owned the bar at one time, and then he owned the store, the grocery store, the everything store.
This is it. Oh, this is all in Tomahawk.
All in Tomahawk. Of course, a butcher. Rural Alberta, you need a butcher nearby.
Yeah.
And then there was a hardware store. Couple churches, went to school there, preschool through grade 3, and then my parents separated, and that's when I moved to the city with my mom and my 2 brothers.
So by the city, you're referring to
Edmonton.
now,
Yeah. And stayed there from, well, we moved around a lot, but mainly Edmonton until the end of junior high. And then I went back to Tomahawk with my dad and went to high school in Drayton Valley.
Yeah.
Going pretty quick here, but
No, that's fine.
went to Red Deer College, wanted to be a grade 6 teacher. I don't know why, just wanted to be grade 6.
But yeah, that teacher thing. So has that been there for like? Is that like when if someone found a picture in grade 1 with like what you want to do when you grew up, would they find teacher? Or when did the teacher thing come in?
I honestly wanted to be a sports broadcaster.
Okay, yeah.
Radio or TV. Not really made out for TV, but it's what I really wanted to do. But as I went through high school, I realized Nate was far more competitive than what I was willing to do for high school. So worked hard enough to get into teaching. I had coached kids baseball for quite a few years, and I love kids, so that just seemed like a natural fit. So did a couple years here at RDC, and then I don't think grade 6, sort of that upper elementary, early junior high was for me. So I transferred to U of A and went into secondary to be a high school teacher. Mm-hmm. So about half my life in the city, and I could never go back.
Never go back to the
never. Yeah.
But a lot back and forth there. Yeah, I was looking at when I saw Tomahawk, I had to, of course, go look that up. Yep. So that's about 24 kilometers northeast of Drayton Valley.
Yeah.
So I guess you have a pretty good bus ride for high school then.
Yeah. Used to get on, the bus used to go past my house and down one of the range roads.
Seems like everything is range
didn't come back, right? So that would be at like 6:40 something, and that was my cue to get out of the bed because the house would shake. I'd hear the bus, and I had it timed. I had 8 minutes to get out of bed, get my stuff, get ready to go, and be at the end of the driveway. So it was just before 7 or so. Wow. I'd get on the bus and didn't get to school until 8:15, 8:20.
Yeah,
that is an early morning.
Spent a lot of time sleeping on the bus, and then going home. We actually. It was after 5 easily by the time we got home. So
it makes for a long day for a high school kid.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you didn't have smartphones. Like at best, I'm thinking you might have had the possibility of a Game Boy. Yeah. That's about all the electronics.
Game Boys, and the bus driver would put on the radio, and depending on where we were, the FM would cut in and out, and and there'd be the fight on the bus. Are we listening to hip hop? Are we on the country station? Are we on the rock station? And so finally the bus driver, we got to just rotate. I think he finally settled on a weekly basis. We'd rotate the music on the bus, but lots of head bobs, smashing your head into the window from sleeping. But
that's a significant. Yeah. So 24, I got 24 kilometers northeast of Drayton Valley and about 80 kilometers southwest of Edmonton, just so people know where that is. So basically in the middle of nowhere.
Middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which would explain why there's so many amenities for such a small place. Like a place of that population typically does not have really anything.
Yeah.
But when you get that far out, you start having to provide those services.
Yeah. Whenever I see something strange or unique, like someone living in Tomahawk, I have to go look it up a little bit and I'm curious about that. So the last census, they're up to 113 in the population.
Yeah.
Apparently there's 59 private buildings on there. And then Wikipedia kindly provides notable individuals from Tomahawk. Oh, okay. All right, so they list 2. Okay. I'm sorry, you're not one of them.
Not yet.
I'll try. We'll go back in and edit it. Yeah. So apparently there is a progressive conservative MLA from there from 71 to 79, Rudolph Rusty Zander. Okay. So an MLA, and then Beth Bieda. She was a Big Brother contestant on the Canadian version in season 9, apparently.
Wow. That's
There's Tomahawk.
fame to claim right there, being on Big Brother,
Yeah, right. So yeah, we'll work on getting Mike Walsh, town councillor, on there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we've gone to RDC for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Or up to U of A. I want to keep the Edmonton thing in mind because I got questions about sports later on.
Sure.
And then what brings you down to Red Deer and then finally into Penhold?
Yeah. So I started teaching in February 2006 in Athabasca. I had subbed one day before that in Spruce Grove, and that was just an experience. But got fortunate, got hired in Athabasca at the high school, beginning a second term, and I met my future wife there. And after 2.5 years or so, she just said to me, Mike, I've had enough of being in the middle of nowhere. So Athabasca, 1.5, 2 hours north of Edmonton.
Yep.
Middle of nowhere, very outdoorsy kind of place. Yeah. And I mean, we like to be outdoors and camp and whatever, but not like that.
Yeah, a little more closer.
So she said, I'm leaving and you're either coming or you're not. So we started looking for jobs, and she got hired at Red Deer College actually for teaching early learning and childcare. So sort of like the daycare, day home kind of program.
Yeah.
And my job actually is I got hired just over here down the street at Penhold. It wasn't elementary then, but just Penhold School.
Okay.
For grade 9 humanities and grade 7 social studies. And then I think the school at that time was grades 4 to 9. And so I taught all the tech except for grade 6. So I saw pretty much the whole school throughout the week. And then another school in Chinook's Edge, Poplar Ridge, was downsizing. So one of their teachers was coming here, but I got very fortunate that Innisfil Middle School had a position, and I applied and I interviewed, and the rest is history. I've been there ever since. So
yeah.
When I taught here, Lucina would have been the furthest street north on that side of town.
Yeah. So the school would have been right on the edge of town, essentially.
Right on the edge, Woodalair would have been there, but everything else, no Multiplex, no Hawkridge.
Yeah.
And the town was very different then.
And we're just talking, what, 2008, something like that?
2008, 2009.
Yeah,
like
we're not, this isn't.
That doesn't sound that long ago.
Yeah, like doubled, the town has doubled in size since then, right? It's incredible.
Okay, two thoughts. It seems, knowing your wife Jen, her personality hasn't changed.
No.
Okay, yeah. So I resonate with the story you tell.
Yeah.
And then, how prepared were you to get into the classroom out of college? Did you? I imagine there's one of those things. It's just one of those transitions. There's like the theoretical and then the practical. When you have 20 to 30 kids, perhaps more, depending on government funding at the time. But 20 to 30 kids in front of you day in, day out, like that's gotta be a different experience than just the theory.
Oh, it's so different. And my practicums, so at U of A, you do 2 practicums. My third year practicum, I was in the west end of Edmonton it was in an upper middle class neighborhood of Edmonton. So very different demographics and socioeconomical background.
Yeah, that'd be nothing like your small town Athabasca.
Nothing
school.
like Athabasca or Innisfil or Penhold. Professional parents across the board, really no issues. So it was very easy. And then my fourth year practicum, I was at J. Percy Page High School in Edmonton, which is in Mill Woods. So as a white Caucasian man, I was a minority as a teacher even. Right. So lots of Asian teachers, black teachers, East Indian teachers. But the kids are primarily from the Middle East somewhere, because that's where they sort of live in Edmonton, is sort of in that Mill Woods area. Yeah. And my mentor teacher was basically an options teacher. So he did all the computers. He did a class of cooking. So again, very different, because options is not the same as core subjects. These kids come in, and the thing about high school options is, especially computers, if kids can come in and do the modules, they can rack up credits pretty fast, right? So you get a good mix of students in there. And often what I found in Athabasca, the kids who really needed credits to graduate, guess where they go? Go take some computer classes, because in a month they could have 3-4 credits easily.
Right.
if they just wanted to put in the work. So very different. And then you're not truly prepared coming out of university for what an actual classroom is like. Yeah. So again, in Athabasca, though, I did all the computers, and then I taught online, some core subjects online, which was different. Some of the smaller schools around Athabasca didn't have teachers for certain subjects. So we would video, Mike, here's Mr. Mike Walsh, and I'm standing in front of a camera and trying to teach Social 30 to kids 100 kilometers away. And they would snail mail the work in at that time, right?
Yeah,
it would come on the courier and like, yeah. So just different. You're never truly ready.
Yeah.
And I've really tried to help students. I don't know, 4 or 5 years in a row, I've got student teachers coming, and my main goal is you just got to be in front of the kids. As soon as you're ready to be the teacher, I'm going to sit back and let you take over, because you need to be prepared for what it's really like. Yeah. Because the university is, I mean, textbooks don't teach you for how kids really behave.
No.
Well, I think that's pretty universal to most students coming out of university for any career. And just most of us don't have to then get thrown in front of a group of students and have all of our insecurities show. Yeah. It's, as a teacher, like everybody comes out of university into a job and it's like, oh man, I don't know what I'm doing. But when you're doing that in front of a bunch of kids, that's got to be even more intimidating.
You really got to be comfortable with yourself and confident in who you are, and just figure out the strategies that work. Yeah. Not really always for you, but for the kids, because the kids change all the time, right? And it's easier for one person to change and adapt than to try to change 12 or 13-year-olds, right? So.
Yeah, so I guess when you're a teacher, like you're getting a constant performance review, eh?
Every day.
Feedback on the fly.
Yeah. So okay. So you mentioned you're married now to Jen. How long?
Oh boy.
No.
2009.
Well, we'll cut this in so you like. Boom.
2009.
2009.
Got married in 2009. Yeah.
And then 3 kids by your bio.
3 boys. So Jen had Josh when she was much younger, way before I met her. He's 27 now. He's a military vet. He did 6 years in the service as a medic in the Air Force.
And Jen is very proud of you.
Very proud.
Facebook.
If you know my wife, there's always the pictures. And then actually just this past couple of years, he's been going through the training of Edmonton Police Service, and he's just graduated. So he's on his, he's on Practicum basically, driving around now, no more classroom stuff. So
talk about a shift from theory to classroom.
just really proud of him. It's a different way to serve, not something I could do. But great young man. Yeah. And then of course we got the 2 other boys, Micah, who just turned 11, and Jonah's 9, almost 10. And they teach me something about life every day. And about how boys fight in World War III. And and if you've been driving over on Henderson Crescent, Jonah is the little guy who's got the Ukraine flag out there right now.
Right. I saw some pictures of that.
Or Boo Russia or whatever he's got going on there. So.
Well, we'll get to the politics soon. I get to see it's still at home. Yeah. All right, so we just a little bit more on this teacher thing, because I think it's some interesting angles. And so you're also a basketball coach, so that, I guess that just kind of flows out of the idea of loving to be around kids and helping out kids. As you said, you're a baseball coach. The other curious one I want to know about is how this fingernail thing comes about. And if you're not familiar with this, it seems every 3 or 4 months, it seems, you post on Facebook a picture of your hands on a desk or something like that, and you got fingernails painted. How that get started, and what is there some sort of criteria that they have to complete in order to get to that?
Well,
where does fingernail painting come into the teacher education component?
Well, it actually started like several years ago. And there was one young lady, I don't know if I was teaching grade 7 or 8 at the time, but going through a lot of things in her life, and contemplating a lot of things, and just not in a good place. And junior high is really about relationships. They won't buy into what you're selling them, and whether it's teaching or just trying to talk them through some of these issues, unless you have that relationship. And she would regularly change the color of her fingernails. And just one day, just knowing she needed to talk to somebody and get some things out, I said, "You want to stay in and paint my nails?" And so that just opened the door to letting her talk about some of the things she was going through. And it kind of just went from there, leading into like last year. There was a list on the wall, a sheet of loose leaf, and the girls would write their names and the date. So every week, I think last year, I changed my fingernail color, and it's just about the girls. They bring the nail polish. I don't care what color it is. And then we take a picture, and it's on Instagram, and they have the picture, or it goes on my Facebook. And this year, the girls are not as into it, which is fine by me. But it's all about building relationships and just being able to talk to kids in a different way. And that's the same about basketball. When I taught over here, Jay Steves he told me as the vice principal, "You're going to help me coach." I knew nothing about basketball. I'm not even a real big basketball fan, to be honest with you.
You got the height going for you.
Got the height going for me, and that's the thing. Do you like basketball? No, I've never played actually. And so Jay taught me a lot about coaching, but you get to see these kids that you're working with in a classroom in a different environment.
Yeah.
And when you build that relationship as coach-player, it just moves into the classroom. And I mean, I can get more out of them in the classroom when it's Mr. Walsh, the basketball coach, not just the teacher. So I always tell the young or inexperienced teachers, if you have a chance to coach or do anything extracurricular, I highly recommend it, because it's just another way to build that relationship with the kids.
Yeah, it's just that one more layer depth to that relationship. No, that's very cool. So let's continue with the sports theme for a moment. So you've said you've made at least a couple of different stints in Edmonton, and you kind of grew up around that area, and yet I don't think it's a secret that you're a pretty passionate Flames fan. Is that correct?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yes. We don't talk about that other team.
The other team, the other team that shall not be named.
That's right.
I guess.
Yeah.
Okay. So where did that come about? Is that out of some sort of vengeance for Edmonton, or is it something else?
No. So a couple things. So one, when I was still out in Tomahawk, the Oilers and the Bruins were meeting in the Stanley Cup Finals, and so when we played street hockey, one team was always the Oilers and the other team was always the Bruins, and I got stuck on the Bruins, which made me think, well, I don't like the Oilers, maybe just because of that. But I really wasn't into, like, we didn't get to watch hockey. It was one game a week would have been Hockey Night in Canada.
Sure, yeah.
If the antenna would hold up for you and whatever, right? So, so then when my parents got divorced and I moved to the city, a couple years into that, my stepdad was a huge Maple Leafs fan. Okay. And, in the late 80s and early 90s, the Maple Leafs were really terrible. And so times were a little bit different then. We had Hockey Night in Canada, but we had the weekly game on TSN, which at that time was always Toronto. TSN's based from there, so it just made sense. So I just remember one night I was forced to watch the Maple Leafs versus the Flames, and the Flames were pretty good, and the Leafs were not, and the final score was like 13-3 or something like this, or very one-sided for the Flames. 80s kind of idea, yeah. So I just thought, well, I can stick it to my stepdad now, so I'm going to cheer for the Flames, and ever since that day, I've cheered for the Flames. I have a real hatred towards the Oilers. I think it's hilarious that they got two of the best players in the world and they are wasting them away. But I will cheer for all things Calgary, the Stampeders, maybe even the Hitmen over the Rebels, the Flames for sure. But yeah, I have no time for Edmonton sports teams. Let's just say that.
There's the hot take. Yeah, that's gonna be the clip part.
Could cost me an election.
That's right. Yeah. You have to broaden that out if you want to go provincial politics, I guess. No, that's I think for a lot of people there's some sort of backstory. There's a reason why they're connected with some teams. Yeah, for me it was my grandparents. Why I'm with the Leafs. I think I've been to Toronto once in my life, but yeah, it was the grandparents. But no, that's interesting. All right. So what are the chances what do you think, or what do you peg their chances at this year? for like a really Stanley Cup run, because they're I haven't looked at the standings for them. I follow the Leafs, obviously. But are they top in the West right now, or they're probably a little bit behind Colorado?
They're behind Colorado,
Yeah.
but they're starting to pull away in their division.
Yes.
And they've still played less games.
They rattled off 11 in a row, 10 in a row, something like
they
that.
had won several
Just
in a row.
recently.
But they're still behind games, and they're 11 points ahead of Edmonton starting today.
It just happened.
And the best team in my mind was going to be Vegas, and Vegas is not so good this year and really banged up. So, the Stars are kind of aligning, and they've got a man behind the bench who I think has just turned that ship right around in Daryl Sutter.
How many times has he come back and saved this team?
Yeah.
I
I keep saying, give him a life contract. He should never be allowed to die until we're putting dirt on his casket, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think right now today they are the best Canadian team.
Yeah.
I think the style they play will allow them to be successful in playoffs. But you never know what can happen.
No,
right?
that's
it
why
all
they play the games,
depends.
they say.
Really, the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs, I don't know if there's a better sport or playoff in anywhere.
Yeah.
Because it's usually so close and so competitive. And if you can come out of the first round, I think you have any one of the 8 teams that would be left. You have a legit chance of going somewhere.
I agree.
So.
Yeah. I think out of the West, I think the stiffest competition is going to be Colorado.
Yeah.
My Leafs have just a nightmare of a time trying to get out of the East. We like in the Leafs division.
Yeah.
Not only they have Boston, they have Tampa Bay Lightning and the Florida Panthers. Those Florida Panthers and Tampa Bay Lightning, I think, are the top 2 in the East at the moment.
2 of the top teams. Yeah.
And Tampa has on top of that like the best goalie in the world. And Toronto's a little soft there right now.
That's saying it nicely.
Yeah. Fortunately, we have a team that can put up like 6 goals because we need to.
Yeah.
We're playing the old Edmonton style.
Old Edmonton hockey. Fire wagon.
Yeah. If we can get 6 goals a game, we should be good.
Yeah.
It's. I was really optimistic last year with the Leafs. We had a much easier run in at least in theory in the first or in through the playoffs, but those Canadians last year really did us in. And it's going to be a tough one for the Leafs coming out.
I don't mind that at all, Brian. I got to tell you.
But no, I got to say the Flames would not be a bad bet to make it to the finals. So maybe that's where we'll set up. Let's do this. If the Flames are in the finals, we'll have to do a show.
Back.
We'll have to do a live show from your basement or something like that, eh?
Not during game day, though.
We'll be in the back corner doing color commentary on you watching the game.
There was a time where Jen wouldn't allow the boys to come in the basement if the Flames were on. But I've mellowed quite a bit because Jonah now is right into hockey, and he's got to be there, and so I've learned to control myself just a little bit. But playoffs are a different story.
Yeah, goes from maybe from a PG level to like PG-13.
Yeah. We're kicking it up a little bit.
That's cool. All right, and now let's touch on the last part of this kind of opening segment, Councillor. So you are, as it stands, the longest serving councillor. You are a 3-term councillor. Let's start off. How do you feel about term limits? No.
Well, honestly, I think there could be a place for them, but I think it must have been the show The West Wing, and I don't know if you ever watched it, but being a political nerd, I've watched that thing. There was an episode about something about term limits, and to me, elections are term limits. If people are not happy with a councillor or a mayor or the premier or the MLA or whoever, there's always a time frame given, and there will be an election within so long.
Yep.
And that is your opportunity to vote for someone new or someone different, or keep the same people coming back. Just very blessed. The town has been quite responsive to some of the things I've campaigned on. It was a little scary this last time. because the first 2 times I came first, and that is the thing. Like I don't just run
You campaign pretty hard.
I campaign to win.
Yep.
I want to be first. Not that it really matters, because at the end of the day, it's still just one vote.
Yep.
But when we got to, I don't know, 3 or 4 down the list, and I'm thinking, where's Mike Walsh's name?
Those Sean's really took a commanding
Sean
lead there. It
Cranenberg,
was-
like, wow. And we were talking about it before the results came in, and we knew there was, I can't even remember the total number, and I'm thinking, well, could someone get 70% here? And I'm thinking, that's not even possible. But lo and behold, Councillor Cranenberg, and good for him. You know, he's been in the community a long time, and he represents our town, just an amazing guy. So, but we're happy to be back at the table, and we'll see what happens.
So that was in 2013. How long has the politics been part of your life, so to speak? What's been the attraction to actually step into then the public eye?
Yeah, I don't know if before moving to Penhold, so we would have moved here in 2012, but I mean, I started paying a lot more attention coming out of university. Ralph Klein was still the premier. There was an election coming, and he started giving out Ralph bucks because the election was coming, and he paid off my Alberta student loan. So from that point on, I started paying attention to the PC party of Alberta, and just not involved, but just followed. And then we moved here, and the town was going through issues. There was quite a group of people that were very upset with the council and thought that things were being run poorly. And if you've been here a long time, we had the signs going up over there by the fast gas. And so there was a rally there one night in his yard. And so I went. I just wanted to hear. And, I don't know if I believed everything, but I was okay with, let's have someone come in and, do some report, do an investigation. If enough people are saying, let's make this, let's do it.
Yep.
It did a lot of damage to the town. It divided people. It divided the community. There was no trust in the staff. And so when, I didn't see all that happening, but that first election was pretty easy to campaign. Just time for change, and let's get some new eyes and new voices in there. And then the results of the investigation and all that come in, and the town is actually doing what it was supposed to be doing, and the money is where it's supposed to be, and all of this. And so we had to sort of put it back together, and council had quite a changeover, I think, at that time.
Because even now, like from 2000, I guess 2013. Yeah, I don't remember 13 so much, but in 17 to 21, it's almost all the same. So it must have been a big change from 12 to 13, and then 13 to 17 also saw a big.
So in 2013, we had a new mayor, and I think 4 or 5 new councillors. So and just kind of went from there.
So it's interesting, because given how much or how involved you are, not just in municipal politics, but even now you've kind of branched into the provincial side of things. It's surprising to hear that. It's kind of a fairly recent thing that's kind of captured your attention.
And a lot of that provincial stuff too, like getting involved, like I can give a big shout out to our former mayor, Dennis Cooper. Like he asked me if I wanted to go one time, and I don't know who was coming to speak, and I'm like, yeah, let's go. And man, it just captivated me, and so I got involved in the PC party there too. So
there is certainly, I can understand the draw of the energy that these political events rally. Like if someone has never been to one of these things, like you have people in there that like this is all they do and think about like all the time, and there is something. When someone is that dedicated towards, I don't care what it is, there's an attraction. Like I'll be watching YouTube videos on something I have no concern about, but the guy who's doing whatever he's doing, he's like master at it. There's something attractive to that, and you put yourself in a room full of these political wonks and pundits and just that passion, energy. There's a pull to it.
I'm not the only geek in the room, That's
right. I'm normal. What are you talking about? All right, so let's stick with local. Let's stick with local politics for now. We'll perhaps branch out. Now, I try to get on and watch the council meetings, but this week it totally flashed through my mind. I totally forgot. And so, yeah, you guys, I didn't have my hard hitting questions for you this week. I'm sorry.
I didn't mind. I was in the big chair, you know.
Yeah, I know. I missed that, and then I've seen everyone at the big table even.
Yeah.
It'd been cool. But anyways, so nonetheless, council did, and there's no chickens on the docket this time. So I guess maybe that's why.
Chickens have been decided.
It's done. It's
if
over.
You want chickens,
We're not
go to the
talking about
town, start the application.
Yeah, we're not talking about that.
Yeah.
Time to move on.
Let's
that
go.
discussion has
Let's
been
be
going
done.
for a while.
Yeah.
But another kind of interesting development that council's kind of been working on is this community hub project. And at the council meeting, and then even today, as of this recording, the town has put out notices and put out an article talking about this community hub project. And basically, this is the council's plan for the land that exists south of the multiplex and the school there. So basically, the land between the multiplex and the ball diamond / the pump track. And so, what is the overall plan for that, and kind of what's the timeline that's going on? First of all, maybe what did council decide at this last council meeting to go forward with?
So this has actually been in the works for like probably my first term. We started putting some plans together, and then we'd revisit, and the plan would change, and it's always been dependent on funds. I mean, we could decide to do big projects like that anytime, but I don't think we want big tax increases either. So we were really, really fortunate. We had a private donor step up and give a significant amount of money. And then we got a matching grant from the federal government. And we had some money put away. So, it's about $1.5 million. We got to relocate the ball diamond or the soccer pitches a little bit, because also there's the announcement of the new school that's going to come. So the school will share the bus loop.
Right.
And so south of where the new school will be, we'll have the soccer field, and there's another soccer field. There's another ball diamond, which will be to the east of the current one. Some gravel trails, hopefully some paved trails throughout, a bridge across one of the ponds. And then sort of in the middle of it all, we're going to do a gazebo and like an outdoor area where we could host, anything, outdoor festivals, concerts, music thing, whatever. And then, there's a washroom or a wash house right there beside it. So, in the beginning, 8-9 years ago, it was really about just sports recreation. And now it's more encompassing, like a center of a town where we can hold events right there. So we're really excited. It's gone out to tender. And the plan is to have this thing done this year.
Really?
So we're, I've talked about it for an awful long time. I truly believe, and I said this at council the other night, the multiplex allowed our town to grow residentially. This will allow us to grow residentially because it's just more recreational opportunities for people to do different things, more things. And people want that, it's amazing.
So if you're interested in seeing this, I'll put links up at penholdtalkradio.ca. It's also, if you go to the town the town of Penhold's website and then look at the council package from the last meeting, they actually got, I don't know what, like 9 or 10 photos of what this will eventually look like. And so, around those kind of two ponds that are on the east side there, you have walking paths around it. And just to the west of the ponds, you're going to have a gazebo kind of central to that. And then spreading out from that, you'll have soccer pitches, you'll have a couple ball diamonds, and the gazebo right in the middle. And when I look at it, it just there's something nostalgic about it. Like it conjures back images of like old movies where like things were happening at the gazebo in the middle of town, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of the the feel that I get when I'm seeing it, and the possibilities of it. So yeah, and it doesn't. It looks appropriate. It doesn't look overly ambitious. It's not trying to do something incredible, but it looks like it'll be just a wonderful little community spot where I can see that gazebo being used every weekend through the summer.
Yeah.
For whatever, and then it's gonna be like a 40-foot gazebo, so it's gonna be a significant one. Yeah. So this is that's really going to be a hub for it, and thus community hub project is really going to be a central spot for outdoor gatherings, just as maybe the multiplex is for more of the indoor stuff. So the plan is to get that completed this year.
We've got the budget, we've got the funds.
Wow,
the tender's going out.
Very cool.
Let's be ready to go for when we can move the dirt. And
been seeing these plans since I first moved here, and all sorts of plans coming.
Yeah.
And first they built on the high school, then they just kept adding and adding. You added the RV campground there and all sorts of stuff. And it's just great to see it kind of finally come to full fruition where you've got the full hub there.
Yeah. And then, so that'll be done, hopefully be done this year. It was just announced a couple of weeks ago that there's funding for the design process, at least for a new Penhold Elementary School, which is going to be on the just directly south of the bus loop there, so we're just directly adjacent to the high school.
Yep.
And that'll be replacing the one from the west side, right?
That's right.
Yeah, at least
it's a replacement school for that
school.
because that school is
it's old and it's run its time and it's close to the tracks, and it's not an ideal place, and like anything, buildings get old and their lifespan gets to the end. So I mean, this is exciting times, I mean, Penhold Crossing is still new.
Yeah, that was only
being able to have our children start in preschool, wherever that is, it could be multiple, wherever, but then kindergarten and Jesse Duncan all the way through Pen X and grade 12, like just, 5-10 years ago, we didn't have that.
Yeah.
Right. So it's just, and young families, which is primarily our community, they want their kids to be able to stay close to home and get their education. So kudos to Chinook's Edge for all their advocacy work and keeping the replacement school at the top of their priority list. I mean, Chinook's Edge has some pretty fast growing communities within it, Sylvan Lake and down South Didsbury, Carstairs. But Penhold continued to remain at the top of the list. And
just seeing the number of students in this town, like you see something like Jesse Duncan when they had to move in multiple portables into that place just to facilitate the kids. Like you started kindergarten to grade 3 at when I think when we moved here it was kindergarten to grade 3. And then at one point they dropped it down to kindergarten grade 1, didn't they?
Yeah, K to 1 or K to 2, and the rest were coming over.
Yeah,
over
they had to shuffle kids
and
around to the other schools just to accommodate the sizes because it was just a massive influx of kids, and it's
and not Pen X and the new elementary school, not just built for population today, right? Having enough capacity that we can continue to grow. Yeah. So.
Yeah, so it looks like the new school is probably still 2-3 years away.
I'd say 2-3 years.
Yeah. So an article I was looking at. So they're in the design phase now. So that usually takes 6 to 12 months, and then hopefully the usual process is next year they would get the funding for the building of it, and therefore it would be built. So like I said, so this year hopefully we get the hub in there, and then the next year or the year after that, you'd have a brand new school in there, and that's going to be the central location,
area of town, and
then 10 years down the road, 15 years down the road with the annex land, like it's
it really will be the center of town, right? So
no, I think there has to be some that level of ambition, at least something that you can look forward to in a community. And I think at least for me, this does a tremendous job of doing that. Last thing before we move on from this, there's also in the council package, there's a suggested location name for this. So right now, at least temporarily, the name is Platinum Jubilee Common. Now I'm assuming this is kind of connected to the Queen.
Yeah, that would be my guess. So we actually had a subcommittee, an ad hoc committee. The mayor and a couple councillors sat on it, and then worked with other people, obviously. But that's the name that sort of has been pitched right now. We're not in any rush to name it. I don't know if we'll look for input from the community.
That's what I was going to ask. Yeah,
right?
if you guys are interested in hearing
Yeah.
maybe the public's opinion on what name to put on there or something like that.
Yeah. I think we're open to anything right now. We got a long time to go before we have to worry about that. So
yeah, but if people filled your inbox with name suggestions, that wouldn't be a bad thing.
No, send me an email, find me a messenger, send me on Facebook, whatever. Text me, call me.
All right, so right now the placeholder name is Platinum Jubilee Common, and so initially I was a little leery of it. I'm still not completely sold, but at least I think the connection is with the Queen. So at least there's something there.
Yeah.
It just felt like a very common, very just generic name for something, but no. All right, so if you think you can improve upon that, send Councillor Walsh an email or any of the councillors.
Yeah.
And who knows? Maybe your name will be etched in the legacy of Penhold for the community hub. All right. Enough safe talk. Let's push in a little bit on maybe a little more controversy here. So there is a recent by-election up in Fort McMurray. So the MLA who was running, who had won the seat last time in 2019, I think it was the last provincial election. She dropped, she left her seat to run federally and won. And so that opened up a by-election, and it's right, wouldn't you happen to know, in the hometown of Brian Jean. And if you need a little bit familiar, Brian Jean was the leader of the Wild Rose Party. He was never premier though, was he?
Never.
I never thought. Yeah, I always think of him as prominent enough to be the premier, but he never got that top spot. But it was Brian Jean and Jason Kenney that merged the PC party and the Wild Rose Party into now the United Conservative Party, which the United is a little bit more of a quotation at this point, which we'll get to. Jump in whenever you feel like you're comfortable.
You're doing great here, bro.
So Fort Mac just had their by-election, and so Brian Jean ran in it. He had left politics essentially in 2018, I think, if I recall. And so he's back now after 4 years. And this was a landslide, probably even by Fort Mac standards. I didn't go back and look at the history, but Brian Jean got 63.6% of the vote. NDP got 17, the next closest. So this is a cakewalk.
Very one-sided.
But probably the most interesting part is that Brian Jean was really running on a campaign to oust Jason Kenney. How do you think that's going to play out going forward now? Like I don't think I've ever seen a campaign like that where you're running in a party on the promise to oust the leader of that party.
Yeah, who cares what the party lines are on anything? I
Okay.
just want the leader out.
Yeah, and so the larger question, which maybe you can bleed into, is there's been a number of people, particularly even the councillors have mentioned it, but this whole party politics thing, and you look at how much public dissension is going on within the quote United Conservative Party, and is that the kind of a genuine kind of a conversation that you want instead of this kind of Loctite rah behind the leader kind of conversation? Mm-hmm. So yeah, how are you as a member of the UCP processing this?
Well, I think the premier has failed Albertans in a lot of ways, not just COVID, but he still is the premier. And I will say this too. I certainly would not have wanted to be the government during the pandemic, because no matter where we were in the world, the governments did somewhat similar or very different, but the results were pretty much the same everywhere. So there really wasn't a right way, or what people would say is the right way to deal with the virus. What's interesting to me is prior to the by-election, the premier or the caucus or the party, whoever, removed 2 MLAs who wanted leadership reviews and wanted to vote on, wanted the party to vote, the caucus to vote on removing the leader, and they were removed. But in this situation, you have the runner-up in the UCP leadership race running to run against Jason Kenney to have him voted out, which is April 9th in Red Deer. And UCP members have the opportunity to vote for, do they approve of Jason Kenney or not?
So that's not, So April 9th, they have the leadership vote happening in Red Deer. Now, even obviously he wants to get over 50%. And even if he gets under, it doesn't mean he has to step down, correct?
Right. So,
but obviously if you're the leader and less than half the people really want to follow you, there's going to be some pressure there.
Yeah. So I mean, Jason Kenney is a masterful campaigner. But he has set the standard very low. He set the bar low. He's been asked several times, and it goes back to before the parties came together. There was some premiers, PC leaders, premiers of Alberta who had leadership reviews that were, mid to high 70s approval, and they still were ousted or stepped down or whatever happened, right? And Premier Kenney is saying, well, in a democracy, it's 50 plus 1%, and that's approval. So he's really lowered the standard. I mean, politics in this province have been a mess for 2 years. Maybe it's because I live in Alberta and I'm pretty active and I'm involved, but I don't see another province that has been as divided. And it starts with our leaders. The previous council, we had wrote several letters to the premier. And wherever you are in the political spectrum, it doesn't matter to me right now. I truly believe that Kenney needed Miss Notley at the COVID table.
Just on a large, just to speak to that, just on just a larger topic than just leader and than just Kenney. But the whole approach to these COVID measures, for me, it's been. I think I've said before, I'm quoting from another article, it's been mandates through press conference, and it's been done all kind of in-house. There's been very little public and very little. Seems like oversight. Like when I look in the States, like I'm seeing Dr. Fauci being grilled by the Congress all the time. Up here, we just don't have that kind of public forum and pressure to put on these public officials. And so, I think there would have been at least optically, if nothing else, talking about party politics, but there's just let's pretend we can actually work together on this issue, if there's going to be any issue at all that we can work together, and at least sit at the table. We might not all agree, but let's try to get at least a working dialogue going on with one another. But they're just it's so divided by colors now that it just breaks down everything. You just can't have the other side on here because they're wrong just for being the other side. But let's hear from the other side. And then at least that way we can come back and say, we've heard from everybody. Here's what we're going to decide. You can disagree or not, but at least you can say you've been heard.
Partisan politics is ruining our public debate. Wherever you are on the spectrum, if the other side says something, it's automatically wrong. And that's whether you're an NDP supporter, then you think whatever a conservative says is wrong. If you're a conservative member, anything Rachel Notley or Justin Trudeau says is automatically wrong. I don't know how it could be done, but if we could eliminate parties and start voting for qualified and good human beings to represent us, I think we'd get further in society. Because if our leaders behave like this, and you see it in question period, like it's just a show.
Oh, no kidding.
And the sort of the one line, it's about a soundbite, right? A 10, 12-second soundbite that works, catches the eye of your supporters. Oh, rah, rah, rah.
Yeah.
But we're not accomplishing anything. And that attitude and behavior starts trickling down, and we see it everywhere.
Yep.
Being a teacher, I've never seen 12 and 13-year-olds knowing more about what's going on, but using vulgar language about the Prime Minister.
Mm-hmm.
And so you talk about being put on the spot. Well, Mr. Walsh, how do you feel about Justin Trudeau?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know Justin Trudeau. I have no opinions of his personally.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't approve of many of the policies he has.
Yep.
But like I would never swear. There's got to be some respect for the position.
Yeah.
And whether we like it in Alberta or not, he got elected.
Yeah.
But I also think this, and maybe this is just because I just don't know anything, but I feel like ever since, I believe Prime Minister Trudeau was first elected in 2015 as Prime Minister.
I think so, yeah.
Around the same time, I think, as Miss Notley.
Yep.
But the dialogue and the anger and the hatred on both sides, I don't remember it being like that prior to those elections. And I'm not placing blame on them.
Yeah.
I'm just, something happened in society where, I mean, I was joking before we started, like if I wasn't elected, I'd get off Facebook.
Yeah.
Because it's an angry place.
Yep.
Twitter is the same thing. I have a bad Twitter addiction, so I can't get off it. But social media,
Yeah.
no matter what you believe in, you can find it. And it gives people a voice without actually having to go out and say it to people. And anyway, it's a real mess.
Oh yeah, no, we I don't know if it's social media, but it just seems like we've lost the ability to have a thoughtful, extended dialogue
Yep.
without feeling like the other person's the enemy.
Yep.
Like personally, I think there's larger issues, but it seems like we're at the point where if I disagree with your ideas, I've devalued you as a person.
100% agree.
I think there's larger issues that tie into that, where we've connected those criticisms of people's thoughts and positions, and yet people have tied it so closely to who they are that if that's what's happened, then yeah, I can understand it, because then there's no way I can disagree with you and we still be friends, because in disagreeing with you, I've disagreed with who you are as a person.
Yeah.
And if that's how you're viewing it, then we can't have that conversation. But that seems to be kind of what's gone on, that we've just kind of consolidated all our thoughts into these like little snippets. And so not only are we tying our thoughts to our identity, but we've so truncated our thinking to just these little blurbs that there's no way we could actually kind of break out from and actually interact and dialogue on an extended level.
Why can't we just get rid of the color, the flag, the party? Let's take a pragmatic approach. If it's a good idea for the majority of people, who cares if it's from there or there? If it's going to benefit society, the majority of society, who cares? And town councils have to work like this.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's any secret, but I'm a pretty conservative-minded person and a fiscal hawk. That is my approach at the council table. But I don't hold it against anyone else personally if they've got a different view. Yeah, I've got to work with these people for 4 more years. We got to represent Penhold.
Yeah.
But you see this, even like, to say it doesn't happen in municipal politics, that's not true either.
No.
I mean, big cities, Calgary, I think the last term in Calgary was the best example.
Yeah.
A pretty conservative councillor who basically became anti everything the mayor was leading. Well, that doesn't really go anywhere either. And lo and behold, he didn't win in a campaign for mayor.
Yeah. So let's tie that into kind of all this public dissension within the United Conservative Party. And the pundits and the people on the left and the political scientists are saying that this is all bad, because then it's fracturing up the United Conservatives, and they're not going to be ready for the NDP, who are remaining united, and then there's so many polls though, even recently though, but most of the polls up until now show the UCP trailing in the overall provincial polls. But is this dissension and this ability to speak out in this manner and make it so boldly? Like, here's a quote from Brian Jean on the night he was elected. He says, "Jason, I hope you see what's coming, and I hope you do the right thing. The thing is to resign while the party's still together. The party needs to stay together, and to unify, we need him to go." Like, that's a blunt. Almost like that bluntness is so bizarre in a political realm.
Yeah.
And yet we've seen this over the last 2 years, particularly a lot of MLAs feeling the freedom to finally speak out like this. And yeah, some of them have been axed from caucus and now sit independents. But should we be actually welcoming this kind of open dialogue like this? Is this towards kind of a non-party based, or at least not in such a lockdown method? Because
not forced to tote the party line.
Yeah, or a leader's line, especially at the federal level, but even in the provincial level, like, you follow the premier's dictates. Like, this is here's your talking points. Now go out and say them.
Don't question the leader.
Yeah, or at least especially publicly.
Not publicly.
Yeah.
And that's why I find it interesting, because they did remove 2 previously, but now you've got Brian Jean, who's basically doing the same thing, but far more public about it.
Yeah.
And campaigned about it.
And
his victory speech
huge.
is saying, all of these things. But I don't think Premier Kenney can do anything about Brian Jean like that right now. It would do him far more harm.
He's got way too much backing, way too much support at this point, especially with such a landslide victory. It's one thing to oust a lesser known, less public figure, but somebody like Brian Jean with a massive landslide victory like that, it's ousting such a massive part of your party.
The key will be whatever happens April 9th or whenever the results end up come out, whether it's Premier Kenney or whoever, because actually Brian Jean could not technically be the leader right now.
He's not even sworn in.
If the premier was to step aside, then there'd have to be another leadership race for the whole party. No secret, Brian Jean would run for that, but I'm sure there would be others. Who that would be, who knows?
Yep.
But the party has to unite, because there is a provincial election, 12, 13 months or whatever.
Yeah,
like
sometime
we're within
next
a
year,
year, right?
Yeah, sometime next year.
You've got to be able to put together a party and candidates and a platform that's going to resonate with Alberta's. And up until, and I think it was just yesterday or the day before, every poll shows that the UCP are so far behind. And polls show that whether it's Premier Kenney or Brian Jean or someone else, the chances of winning right now do not look very good.
Yeah.
So there's got to be healing. And because whether you're a Jason Kenney supporter or Brian Jean, someone's going to win, someone's going to lose.
Yep.
And it's not going to be easy either way.
No.
If Kenney stays in, there's a bunch of MLAs already talking that they're out, they're walking. And so then you've got a split party and you got to try to recover from it. Or if you go the other direction, like you say, we're back to a leadership race and we're almost starting from the ground and trying to build the party from there. Yeah. So regardless, it's not going to be easy.
And I don't know, it appears to me that Conservatives are really bad at this. I think the federal side is seeing it right now too. I mean, one candidate has attack ads, a day before another candidate has declared his candidacy. we beat each other up. We Conservatives beat each other up, when really we should be selling ourselves as the person to beat Prime Minister Trudeau or to beat Miss Notley or whatever's going to happen, right? Yeah. Why do we have to beat each other up and attack dog each other and rip each other to shreds? Because it divides the party, it divides the members, it divides everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as we start to wrap up, what are some ways that you think would change the way that politics is done, particularly at the provincial and federal level? Like, I completely agree. There is just this snap reaction that whatever the other side says is automatically wrong. I don't have to, it doesn't matter what they say. Yeah. And yet the guy next to me on my side could say this exact same thing and I'll go along with it. So do you think that the parties themselves have to disappear, or is there another solution? Perhaps, less power at the top of each of these parties. Like what would you like to see changed that would kind of allow these legislatures and parliaments to actually function in a more compromising is not quite the right word, but in a more collegial manner. Like I don't mind a good debate. In fact, I want a good, honest debate. But when I tune in, I don't see a debate. I see a movie or a show, a sitcom in many cases.
Children on a playground.
So like, is there something that we can change kind of in the system, or are we just or does this have to play out and just, something has to break first? What's your...
I mean, that could be it. I mean, it's got to get so bad that something breaks and then everybody has to sort of start again. But what I would say, and this is the hard part, because if you have parties, people have something behind them, whether it's UCP or an orange flag or a red flag, whatever it is. But it starts for me at the local level. We've got to vote for good people. Who is the best person to represent you or the area? And then within the party, and my understanding would, like, I would say free votes. If I was the MLA, I should be able to vote with what the constituents want. Now, I think behind closed doors, there's opportunities for MLAs to speak their mind, and then they're kind of, I don't want to call it consensus, but this is the way we're going to go, so this is how you're going to vote. I get all that, but why do we have to have it that way? Why is that the process or the structure of how it works?
You think if you are part of the Conservatives, even if they're on a completely free vote where your vote is not being directed or dictated by the higher ups in the party, you would think that you would be able to be relied upon to vote conservatively most of the time, and yet still in a free way. And so you would allow that autonomy while still getting probably 90% of what you as a leader of that party would want anyways. I think that's a good direction to move in, having more free votes.
And just better people. I'm not saying there's bad people. I mean, everyone's got issues and we've all sinned and whatever, but
but how many people just vote based on the party,
the UCP, the CPC?
So many people will look at the flag and see that it is a blue sign, and that's the name that I need to find on the ballot. They don't care who that person is; they're voting for that party, and so you're not voting on a reliable representative for your area.
And our both our federal constituency and our provincial constituency, prime example. If you have the UCP behind your name, you're going to be the MLA. And if you have CPC, you're going to be the MP. And that's not to discredit anybody who's ever been a MLA or an MP in the area, but I mean, you win a nomination, you're very, very likely, like 98%, 99% chance you're gonna be in an elected office.
No, I think free votes and at the grassroots level, it requires and the way that it's set up now, where the nomination for the UCP is going to be voted in. If we want to see the change at in Parliament or in the legislature, it's going to be incumbent upon us as citizens to change that, and or at least really send a strong message that things have to change. And that might mean, getting involved even at the party level, which I think most people aren't, but you have to get involved at the party level and perhaps unseat some of these long held positions. Like when we started with term limits, the internal party politics is just another whole realm of things. But that's where perhaps you have to get involved. You have to start the change at that level in order to see the change at the bigger level. And and hopefully little things like this, being able to have these open dialogues, will help facilitate some of that conversation just amongst neighbors and friends. like, yeah, like it's got to the point where it's not just at legislature. We even now, and social media just exaggerates it, where, you know, if I know my friend votes NDP, I don't really want to talk to that person. That gets into the mindset. Maybe not as much as it does in the States, but yeah, I think it's not foreign to the Canadian mindset either.
And I think you made a good point about like just people getting involved. You know, that to me, that's where it would really start, is because it's one thing to elect different people or the best human being or most qualified, whatever qualified would mean in politics, but we need people to go in and change the way the system works. And that's the volunteer, and that's the buying your membership of whichever party you sort of believe in or the views you believe in, and going to these meetings and changing, you know, the rules for nominations or for leadership, or, you know, to have a say. As Albertans for sure, and probably as Canadians, I mean, most of us do not belong to a political party formally by buying what, $10, $15 membership, whatever it is. And that just, it's going to carry on to what we're going to see at April 9th, where because it's only UCP members, I mean, I don't know. I think Don Braid put out a stat today, like he's hearing over 10,000 members might show up in Red River.
Yeah, I think officially right now it's at 8,000, but yeah, they're expecting that.
Right. So, I mean, even that, like 10,000 people to decide whether we approve of the premier or not.
Yeah.
That's really not that many out of 4 point some million.
10,000 is a drop in the bucket.
Yeah.
Like, that's nothing.
Yeah. So,
yeah, I don't think people realize how much more valuable their vote is at the party level, especially in these kind of automatic districts. That, you know, your vote for who gets nominated as the UCP is basically is much more heavily weighted than your vote in the general election.
yeah, for sure it is.
So yeah, I recommend people getting involved at the provincial or at the party level. Maybe shift some of these old guards out of positions if need be. Send that message that no, we didn't send you there to be a blue politician. We sent you there to work on behalf of the people, and go wherever the good ideas are. Have a healthy, vigorous debate. That's not what we're arguing against. But have a genuine good faith debate with the opposite side, and let's you know, in kind of the idealistic world, let's move in that direction towards the best idea that we can work together with. So yeah, so on that note, and it says if you are wanting to get involved in the leadership vote, so you have to register as a UCP member. So that's only $10. You know, all you have to do is go online and put in your information. You don't even have to essentially vote UCP. Anyway, it's open for anybody. Yeah. I think it's what, $10? $10 to get in. And then I think though there is a fee for this leadership vote. I think it was like was it $100 or something like that.
I don't know.
Or has it gone up from that?
I don't know if the first deadline's passed yet, but so it's a $10 membership, and then the early bird would have been $99.
Yeah.
So $110. If we've missed a deadline now, it's I think $150 to register to vote.
Yep.
And that goes. There's a date for that too. And then I think you could actually just show up the day of, but it's going to cost you $250.
Yeah.
So, you know, if we're not past the early bird and people are interested, like I would strongly recommend get your membership and do the early bird, because the price goes up significantly.
Yes. Yeah. So get in early. So yeah, the first cutoff though, you have to get signed up with the UCP by Saturday. So by the day this is released, you have to be signed up. And then get registered, signed up for the leadership vote on April 9th. Do those and get your vote in and have a say on what you think how the leader, Jason Kenney, has done, whether you want him to keep in position or may send the message that things have to change. Mm-hmm. That's just the first step to perhaps getting involved and changing the whole environment, the culture behind what we're seeing at these political level, or at these higher political levels. But I hopefully the conversations like this spur people on to get more involved in it, to cross party lines and conversations, to engage in good faith conversations. And over time, maybe we'll find some NDP leftist politician to come on the show. But until then, we were grateful that you're able to spend some time to come chat with us. You weren't afraid to dive into some of these politics.
No. It was fun. Thanks for having me.
No, I appreciate again some of that backstory. That was great. And hopefully we can set up that Flames Leaf Stanley Cup final.
Oh, well, you keep dreaming. Flame someone Stanley Cup final for sure.
All right. Well, we'll put a pin in that, and soon we'll come back to that. But thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you to everyone for listening along. I hope this was entertaining and educational for you. Until next time, my name is Brian Constantine.
And I'm Michael Rowland.
And this has been Penhold Talk Radio.